Let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer, where today we're unpacking a short, seemingly simple journal entry from an educator. It's a piece that perfectly captures the magic, the tension, and honestly, the hilarity of teaching. We're kicking things off with a pretty funny hook about a teacher getting into trouble, but for exactly the right reasons. You know, when we think of school discipline, we almost always think of the students, right? But what happens when the relentless curiosity of a student ends up getting the teacher sent to the principal's office? Today, I got a reprimand. Of course you'll ask why. Just look at that opening line. It instantly draws us in with this awesome conspiratorial tone. You can almost hear the teacher whispering this to us in the hallway. Even as adults, there's that universal dread of getting a talking to from the administration. So it hooks us right into the mystery. Why is this educator, someone whose whole job is to keep order, suddenly in hot water? What kind of classroom chaos led to a formal scolding? Well, as you're about to see, it wasn't chaos at all. Actually, scratch that. It was the exact opposite of chaos.
Section 1. The Bug in the Bus. High stakes at a school in Miona. Now, to set the scene, this school operates on a rigid, absolutely immovable schedule. A whole fleet of buses arrives, loads up, and departs. And missing that ride, oh, it is a massive logistical nightmare. We're talking frantic phone calls, stranded students, and some very unhappy administrators. So into this high-stakes environment, we meet our protagonist, Ron. His teacher affectionately describes him as a giant kid from 4th grade. But, it's not his physical size that's causing the disruption today, it's the sheer size of his concentration. Ron was so utterly immersed in solving a programming bug that the entire outside world, the bells ringing, the rigid schedule, the looming departure of those buses, it all just completely vanished for him. The source actually makes a point of noting that this level of focus almost never happens in his other classes. But you put a coding problem in front of him, and he just refuses to leave it unsolved. No way.
As the clock is literally ticking down to the bus's departure, we get to see Ron's relentless workflow in action. Step 1, he calculates. Step 2, he invents. Step 3, he checks. Step 4, he checks again. Guys, this is a 4th grader we're talking about. He's essentially running through the exact same troubleshooting loop as a professional software developer. And the teacher is just standing there watching this unfold in real time. The bell has almost certainly rung, the halls are totally clearing out, the buses are probably revving their engines right outside the window, but Ron is locked in. He's iterating, he's testing, and he point-blank refuses to walk away from that computer until the code actually works. You can just feel the tension in the room. The teacher knows that bus is about to leave, but seriously, how on earth do you interrupt a moment of profound self-driven learning like that?
Moving on to Section 2, Conquering the Tears. The true measure of student growth.
See, this story isn't just about a kid learning to code. It's really about a kid learning to manage himself. Because when you hit a wall in programming, the computer doesn't care about your feelings at all. It just spits back an error. And for a 4th grader hitting that wall over and over again, that is incredibly taxing. In the past, when Ron was confronted with a tough bug, he would express intense frustration and literally burst into tears. It was just totally overwhelming for him. But today, as the pressure mounts and the code stubbornly refuses to work, the teacher observes this monumental physical change. They see the choking in his throat, that familiar lump of frustration rising up, but simultaneously, they feel how Ron is actively conquering his crying. He's fighting back those tears so he can stay hyper-focused on the screen. This is an absolutely massive leap in emotional regulation. He's pushing right through the challenge.
Section 3. A worthwhile scolding. Taking the heat for student success.
So the unstoppable force of Ron's concentration has now collided directly with the immovable object of the bus schedule. The teacher had to make a split-second pedagogical choice, and they chose to let him finish. Quote, Ron, in the end, didn't miss the bus, but I took blows from the vice principals, complete with a crying, laughing emoji. What an absolutely fantastic resolution. Ron finally cracked the code, sprinted out, and just barely made his ride home. Logistical disaster averted for the student. But the teacher? Well, the teacher gladly absorbed that scolding from the administration. Taking those blows from the vice principals was basically the cost of admission to witness a 4th grader master not just a computer program, but his own emotional threshold. And honestly, that emoji tells us everything we need to know about how the teacher feels about that trade-off. They would do it again in a heartbeat.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Is a reprimand from the administration really worth witnessing a student's breakthrough? It challenges us to look way beyond the rigid schedules and the strict rules that govern our institutions. Sometimes, genuine educational perseverance requires bending the rules, watching the clock tick down to the absolute last second, and just being willing to take the heat so a student can finally have their moment of triumph. Thank you so much for joining me as we explored this incredible little classroom moment. Keep looking for those breakthroughs in your own lives, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.